Bueno, en el descanso han salido muchas ideas, me habéis estado...
Well, many ideas have come up during the break. Hopefully we can have a fruitful debate at the end and talk about all the possibilities and constraints that we see in this technology and how to go about it. Another thing I want to touch upon is AR as a strategic value to be productive. We've seen the medical application with a laparoscopy, in the military, in the building industry, etc. And here we go back to some of the examples I showed you before. This is focused on advertising and packaging. So here we are offered AR as a tool to control the distribution on the shelves, as an example of the places you can use this technology.
No sé si sabéis que
If you know that on the shelves you pay depending on the place that you're given in the supermarket. So the people in charge have to take a picture of it and see how it works and how it fits. And here we can play around with our consumers, be it companies or citizens.
Una plataforma donde podemos ir por...
Platform where we can place our products. And, well, everything becomes much more simple and we can create our virtual world. This is another mobile-based app. And here we calculate the sun hours, where the sun will be at a specific moment in time during the afternoon or the evening. This can be useful for an interior designer, for example, to see how or an architect, to see how the light beams will interact with the building during the day.
¿Alguien es arquitecto o interiorista?
Any architect or interior designer in the room? You? And how do you like this app? For architects, if you're going to build a private house, it's very useful to see the shade that will be projected, for example, on the garden, so that you can dig the swimming pool on one place or the other. How much would you pay for this application? I use this app for photography, together with PhotoBuild, another app, and I use it to locate the sun in specific times of the day regarding, for example, an architecture building or monument. I've paid about €8 for this app. It's quite a reasonable price, isn't it? Yeah, highly reasonable, because it really allows you to control the light, and light is key in photography, in interior design, architecture, etc. Another app that is quite odd to me, this allows you to know where all the satellites are located in a specific moment in time. It shows you the sky and you can see real-time satellites. I considered the previous one as the very useful one, but here, besides curiosity, I don't really see any usefulness in it. I don't know if any of you disagrees with me. In photography, we use a different app, not about satellites, but about stars. And when you take long exposure pictures at night, it's really nice and useful to know where the constellations are located so that you can choose the angle, etc. Any golf player in the room? No? Nobody? This app has all the information of golf courses, and through AR we will improve our swing.
Si decís, no, es que este campo en el que estoy...
Well, this course I'm playing on does not exist. Well, this application encourages you to send in the data, and they will place the golf course on their app. So the goal is to have as many golf courses as possible on the app and to have a competitive advantage as compared to their competitors. This comes from a crowdfunding campaign, and this is to give a swimmer information about times, meters, lengths. This is not exactly a set of glasses. It's a device that you can it can be mounted on the glasses, on the goggles, on the swimming goggles, and well, it gives you real-time information. It's quite similar to the Google glasses. Any swimmer in the room, either professional or amateur? We've got one at the back. Do you think this is useful? Well, especially when you're swimming, very often you go forth and back, and you don't really, for example, count the different lengths that you've done already. Yeah, you could calculate the meters or the kilometers that you swim every time. Any other application for this app? Of course you have to swim quite a lot. I think that a device of this kind for divers, for scuba divers, would be fantastic. Yeah, this is also thought and targeted to long-distance swimmers or people running triathlons, people who need very detailed information about the terrain, the lengths, the meters. Okay, we move on to games. PlayStation, before entering Invisimals, already existed. So when you were young, you played cards and you would play around with your imagination, but technology would trigger the creation of reality things based on the cards, as we see on screen.
¿Alguien jugó a este juego?
Did anyone play this game? So in front of the camera you play the cards, and it's only a card game, really.
Este fue para mí un precursor del Invisimals.
Was a precursor of Invisimals. Invisimals was not PlayStation based, but on PSP. It was for PSP, the portable PlayStation.
¿Alguien tiene el Invisimals?
Does anyone have Invisimals? Any Invisimals owners in the room? You've got them. And how is the experience? I've never played with Invisimals. It's my grandchild who has Invisimals. But he's really enthusiastic about it. And he asks for more cards every time. To me, content is the most important thing here. And in this game, we see different strategies used. It's not only about seeing a 3D figure. The game structures underlying this game are really a true support, and that's why augmented reality has an interest there. It has a continuity in a way. This game here, this is an AR game which was awarded different prizes. I will ask for a volunteer here. Anyone? In this game, we are surrounded by UFOs and we need to destroy them. Volunteer? I want you to look at him while he's playing. So in a minute you'll be invaded by UFOs. He's got radar. This is the radar in the middle of the screen, and the radar tells him where the UFOs come from, and he needs to locate them and shoot. I'm not very much into games. That's why I always ask for a volunteer. You can listen to the shots. Things are happening to him, as you can see. When I tested this game, I downloaded it on purpose for this seminar, and I was sitting in a rolling chair in my office, and you really felt like being in a military outpost. And I was dizzy in a minute, and I had to stop. I felt so dizzy. I will stop because otherwise I will fall, he says. Anyone else willing to try it? Give it a go?
Sí, perdón. Exacto, con un fisio, pero la idea es muy buena.
Very good idea. Reality is turned into a surprising scene in which there are unexpected elements. But what about the interaction? Is it comfy? Especially if you're sitting in a rolling chair, you start rolling around very quickly and you lose your balance very easily. I don't know if this will be successful in the future, but there are increasingly more of these games, and you can also decide that, for example, the building in front of you or the computer next to you is your target and you will have to defend it. So these are new game strategies, and they give the game a new perspective. And somebody came up with the idea, if you go to Apple downloads, the most downloaded game after AR Invaders is this one, UFO, that's the name. It's very similar. All of a sudden you see a UFO and you have to record it, and then you can send it to a TV broadcaster, this capture of the UFO in the sky. But you become a kind of adventure journalist in a city when you're bored and you capture these UFOs. I never downloaded that one. As a game experience, the most attractive and appealing one to me up to date is this one, this butterfly catcher in Japan. You have to capture these butterflies which are scattered in the city, and this becomes a discovery game, but also it's similar to the cards game. You collect butterflies and you can compete with others to see if you've got all of them or you're lacking some. This is the first time I saw the gestures being used. Instead of clicking or pressing a button, you really have to move your arm as if you were catching the butterfly in reality. And it does not get you dizzy as it did the previous game. This happened with the Wii. Do you remember that people would just throw out the different elements of the console? I think that people are able enough to control this now.
Pero para tipo, bueno, es más bien las rutas turísticas de Barcelona, ¿vale? Y el principio es exactamente el mismo, porque vas capturando las mariposas, ellos tienen puestos en los monumentos más relevantes y tú vas haciendo fotografías para saber si has llegado al monumento y tal, y te marca una ruta. La verdad es que la idea es más o menos la misma. Es bastante interesante y se basa en realidad aumentada.
Eso, pero si le ponéis la capa de juego, de coleccionismo o de que eso suponga puntuación.
If we add this collecting feature and these gathering points, and that's the way we can hook people. Anyone else willing to try the Invaders, this game that others have tried? Another one by Nintendo this time. This is not so much augmented reality, strictly, but it's quite interesting. With your Nintendo, you can target it to specific objects, and you are able to see elements that otherwise would go unnoticed to you, like animals, bacteria, and here there is also this collecting mindset. All these elements that you capture in reality become part of your collection of objects. Here we see our collection. There's this widespread idea that children don't read, and well, in my first-hand experience, because I develop video games for children between 8 and 12, when I go to schools with our games, I experience that children do read. They read as far as as long as the information is relevant for the game. I mean, they are willing to read, but it has to bear a relation with the game. If the information is useless, they are not willing to read. But at least that's my experience. Google, since it has huge amount of information about cities, they use them in the game development, and they developed actually this software here, which wants us to believe that we are in a matrix, if you remember the film, and there is an alternative reality to ours, and the sculptures of cities become energy hubs. There are two rivals, two sides, and well, that's the fight. Have you experienced this game? How did you feel? Did you like it? It's about ratings and points that you have to get, but you had to go to specific places in the city, and if there were no places in this city, well, I don't know, I didn't find it appealing. Nearly all these experiences that try and explore the edges and all the possibilities, they really use a lot of resources of our mobile phone. they had different problems in terms of the server. I agree with him, but something I really liked was the maps. The maps were fantastic. They were so very well done. I really liked that, the appearance, but as a game, I don't think it's very appealing. What they wanted is to try all the possibilities and overcome the barriers in terms of the quality of the image that is perceived by the user. Anyone else would, or that had played Ingress? Anyone else having an experience with that game? Not Ingress, but I read an article in which they said that Google has Google Maps, of course, and the game used geolocations, and Google would place the players in different places and they would have to take pictures, and then all this information, these pictures and geolocation data, would be used in Google Maps. So Google was expanding its database thanks to the game. Yeah, it's for free, of course. And it's an interesting idea to use AR for a very specific purpose and in a very efficient way. In this game, there was also a collaboration component that played a very important role. I tried it out, but it was a little boring because I was playing alone, and if you don't play in a team, you are fighting against your rival, but there's not much you can do. But I thought it was interesting as an idea. Another idea that is coming up quite a lot is this collaborative work. The devices we use today allow us to collaborate in AR worlds. Before, that was quite constrained. You had to have a computer, a PC, a webcam. It was a highly controlled experience, and it did not result in collaboration. And this takes me to another element that has come up thanks to the IKEA example, and that is to get the loyalty of our users, of our consumers. For any marketing guy or advertising guy, loyalty is generated through feelings. And of course, first we have to get at emotions. AR, as a new technology, can arise an immediate and quick emotion, but is it consistent to generate a feeling so that that person in 40 years' time will look back and say, oh, that was a fantastic experience? This is key for all the brands today, especially in these times of crisis. Everything has to do with triggering an emotion, triggering really a souvenir. And if we really had a good experience, in the future we will be able and we will be willing to retrieve it. We have also seen many commercial applications, like shopping assistants. What do they want? They want us to improve our shopping experience. This is like a personal shopper who would really tell us that the combination, the clothes that we are wearing are trendy and not old-fashioned. And this is done in a virtual manner. So you just stand in front of this machine and the machine just puts clothes on me. You can choose the color, the shape, the type of clothes. Have you tried any of these applications? No, not one of these. But I have interacted with sunglasses, for example. And on your, well, you register with your mobile device the QR code and you access the application. And was it helpful when it came to buying sunglasses? Yes, it was. Would you like to have one of these at home now that you know that this exists? No? Nobody would be interested in one of these devices? I would really like to have a person telling me, well, no, this is too striking, this is really not the good combination. I've always thought that one of the main applications of this is to shop on the net, and that's the problem of e-commerce, that when things don't fit you, you have to send them back. And here, well, you really see that it fits you, it's your size, but I don't really know if what you see on screen would really look like this on you in reality.
As you said, with the sunglasses, it can help you with your buying decision because you see the shape and whether it adjusts or not. It gives you a hint, but then you would have to go there and test it. The internet has become a shopping orientation tool for any process, any buying process. I'm sure that you don't buy an electronic appliance before browsing the internet and checking more. So what happens is that we then end up going to the shop and we know so much about it that the shop assistant looks like an idiot, but he can't learn all the instructions books for each and one of the TV screens. As a hindrance for shop assistants, they can't sell anything. We're talking about closed rooms. People feel a little bit inhibited when they are in a public space if they try on some clothes. Well, especially some kinds of clothes that you wouldn't dare to try on in front of a machine. However, what this shopping center wants is to show that they are a high-tech shopping center, and that's why they offer that in the middle of the corridors. These experiences are positive because in that way the introduction of technology in an environment such as consumer settings makes costs come down, and then these technologies will be more affordable for other uses such as in museums or the health sector and so on, which are areas which are much more productive for human beings. However, as in areas where you can draw conclusions, they work with Kinetic especially, which is a development kit that opens up lots of possibilities for AR. She's wearing a new handbag, for instance. And this brings us to another element, which is called the personal shopper. Sony's president, or personal assistant, sorry, the president of Sony was very sure that robotics would be part and parcel of our lives, and they invested a lot in robotics and so on. Not long ago I saw this one, which is called our butler. If you have a cleaning robot, this one has something else. He can project information on any wall. So, for instance, this machine can project your emails. It can give you music. It can mend for your child who's asleep. Isn't that nice? It can mind for your child. Well, sometimes if you have a staircase at home, it can drive it crazy. If you have chairs around, you will have to put them on the table. Sometimes it takes longer than sweeping the floor yourself. It can also help us with games. Here we have the butler being used as as a projector. But tell me, who plays like this? That's a good question. Well, people play this way at the Wii, for instance, sports games. They play like that. Well, there we have it. This seems to be another important element, but the key is in the glasses. Of course, everybody is waiting for the glasses. All the media, all the specialized journals are talking about the glasses at the Mobile World Congress. They're also keen on glasses and other technologies. I haven't heard of other technologies that were so widely tested and discussed before being launched. We have people who have spent 1,500 euros to buy these glasses to develop them. We're still waiting for the launching date. We expect them to be launched in 2014, and they are there. And it's not only Google, there are also other brands working on the glasses. However, I like the way they are presented and the way this technology is sold to us. They don't talk about augmented reality. They talk about emotions, experiences, and to me, the differences between the first ad videos and the current ones are huge. The first ones were talking about aircraft or roller coasters and things like that. I'm sure that you will do that soon. Going on a roller coaster or going down on, I don't know, a fighter, going onto a fighter plane or canoeing. Music is also quite inviting. Life is going to change 360 degrees. Take a loop or a looping on the glasses. When I think about PortAventura, which is the amusement park around here, and the amount of mobile phones, shoes and wallets falling all over the place, I wonder what would happen with these glasses, sorry. This is a comment to generate a little bit of social awareness. And well, given the NSA controversy about how they collect information from all of us and how we are all spied upon, it is important to understand that this is an attack to people's privacy, Google Glasses I mean, and if we all raise a little bit of awareness on that, it's important. This is a tool which is so powerful. People will be able to identify your image from your face. I think it's enough with your mobile phones. On top of that, I imagine other people will be able to identify you while you walk past them on the street. It's just amazing. There's one part of my talk, a brief part of my talk, on ethics. At the end of my presentation, I would like to talk about this discussion which needs to be taken on, and we're seeing pieces of news and positionings from private individuals, governments, and experts. Many people talk about how they see this as an invasion of their privacy. Imagine you're talking to me and I could be recording you and sending this video clip to Facebook at the same time. So, sorry? But let's put this on hold for a minute and then we will discuss it. So we don't only have Google Glasses, there are other proposals as well, some more focused to the business world, such as to be used as working tools. These were very innovative in 2013. However, the sales policies and the way they are marketed is totally different. Of course, this is a news feature. I haven't seen a video clip where they're being sold. These are just news features on televisions, and here we're seeing that these glasses will enrich everything. They will provide extra information which is so necessary, such as knowing where the planets are in the solar system, and so on. I don't know if you're familiar with Sixth Sense. is it's a TED talk by an inventor who did an augmented reality experience, and the way he presented it and how he did the presentations was just amazing. Well, this presentation is not much more interesting than this, but there's a third proposal. This has to do with sports and with the private sector.
Hemos visto del golf.
Another golf app, which is indispensable, apparently.
Hacen mucho esfuerzo.
In this video clip, they make a great effort to emphasize the technologies and the hardware that they use, because their differential value is that they offer a better hardware than the Google Glass, unless the latest Google Glass change. Another augmented reality system with glasses and a pointer to locate things in space is this one.
Bueno, aquí ya lo decía también alguno de vosotros antes, la complejidad que tiene el acercarme.
Someone said before the complexity of reaching those data. I need the glasses plus a pointer. Many of the examples you have seen before required printing something first to use them as a reference. Google Maps is also making a great effort to tell us that this is going to be simple, because simplicity is so essential. I like this video clip because when we're told sit down on something so simple, if we're not able to sit down on that, we will probably end up blaming ourselves. We're too silly to understand what this object is like. The reality is that this object is not well designed. That's the problem. Google Glass has made a great effort in showing how they are going to be used. It's going to be user-friendly with a simple gesture or an order. You're going a command, you're going to set them going. But let's see if this is so effective. It's not so much that hot music now, the emotion of the high impact of these glasses is gone away. Now we're being told about how we're going to use these glasses on a day-to-day basis and how easy it's going to be. However, emotions are not lost either. There's a look at the emotional value of this other campaign too. Something similar, this reality that surrounds us 24 hours a day. It's useful at all times. As you said before, there are some ethical problems about this as well. What happens with all the data which can be captured not only by Google but also by law? The US government can go and collect those information as well. So this opens up a whole new avenues. If I go to a bookshop, it will help us find the book we're looking for in the library, in the bookshop, sorry. If I'm walking around in town, it will help me find the bank or whatever. It will help me compare prices for, of course, unfortunately for the shopkeeper it might be dreadful, because if the glasses show that the book is cheaper on Amazon, the guy goes for coffee and we'll share that. If I say that this bar is really nice, cool, and the coffee was so tasty, that's going to be much more useful for other people. We've discussed that. It's much nicer than if we read a prefabricated guide. Bransky, who was in New York with that graffiti artist, that became a game as well. People went around trying to capture Banksy's pieces of work. There's the emotional part which cannot be rejected. The guy bought an ukulele, we didn't know what this was useful for, and it was just to show this wonderful sunset to his girl with background music on. You're not inviting her to come and watch the sunset along with you. It's better to show it to her with Google glasses. I don't know, the mobile, if you're aware of that, the Mobile World Congress is offering conferences. There was one last Friday showing the Google glasses live in Fontanella, where the old Zara was. I was not that impressed, to be frank. Yeah, that might be the problem that they will encounter. The expectations generated along these months might not be covered, so if you're not sure about that, so they delay the launching of the glasses. That's why they do so much testing and so much lending them to developers and so on. Of course, corporations doing development kits. Wikitude, Liard, Metaio, they think that what they're doing for augmented reality, you can also use it for Google Glasses, because they are just a projector, a projection device. They don't have too many secrets in terms of development. They have a 6.40 screen. I'm not sure about color and their capacity or contrast. And let's now move on to ideas people have come up with based on that concept that we're going to be wearing glasses. What happens if I go out for a jog? If you like jogging, this could be fun or this could be monotonous, but how can we make it richer? What if I'm being chased by zombies? Not only I can give you data about your jog and how long you've been jogging, how many meters, and how difficult this was. Or how difficult it is for you to complete the whole circuit. But I can turn that into a game as well. I can influence reality and add characters that will help you race faster. If you play video games, if it's a racing car, you have a shadow, which is your previous record, and that helps you improve your results. That's something else that we could do with those devices that I have on my body. I've got this shadow, I could race more, or I could turn this into for instance, chasing game or a game where I need to do something in order to save the planet or to save my life. And here, of course, you are going to set up your own marathon, of course. You can hack the system and you can twitch it so that your enemies can run a little bit slower than you. Exercise is changing. And the way we visit cities in this other experience around here might change too. That's quite false, you'll see that. But that's interesting too. There are lots of shooting areas, shooting locations in cities. For instance, in Barcelona, you have lots of famous locations where films have been shot. So when we travel around, we will get to see the film and what happened in the area we're visiting at this very moment. And the max would be for us to be part of the film. We can't do that, but here in this video clip it almost looks like it. One of the people who is recording appears in the film.
No sé por qué sea atractivo de los holocaustos, fines del mundo.
About why is it so attractive to look at the Holocaust or the apocalypses and so on. Let's move on to the ethics part. We've only seen two examples, examples that had a big impact because they have to do with the technology that is about to appear. One example is an FBI intervention in a cinema because there was someone sitting at the cinema with Google glasses and the person might have been recording the film. The person was interrogated, well, was arrested and interrogated, and I don't know, maybe the person is still pending trial. I don't know what the end of this. And another one was about a woman who was stopped while driving because she was wearing these glasses because she might have been using an audio device or a viewing device, and she actually sued and won because it wasn't proved that it was on. These glasses could be graduated, could be your seeing glasses, it could be it could be the device could be on or off, and this could lead, of course, to ethical predicaments. And then these glasses can be providing information that is not only controlled by me, but by other institutions. So you asked for this discussion to take place. Maybe it's up to you to break the ice. What I'm concerned about is that whenever we are carrying our phone, our smartphones, or when we publish things over the internet, we are the only persons in charge of, we are only responsible for this information to be filtered. However, these glasses can biometrically identify people, and it's not only you providing information, but rather others offering this information to third parties, and I'm actually terrorized by this idea. Who has the opposite view? Just a sec, I'll be over there in a minute. It is true what you say, but I could be recording you right now with a spying camera, and you would not find out, and I could be gathering data on you and send them to the FBI. So it's not technology which is evil, but rather people using technology in an evil way. There will always be people of this sort. If they don't use Google glasses, they might wear a spy camera, or they will put a microphone there, and these bastards from the CIA will still be there. You're right, but not everyone as a standard is wearing or is carrying around a spying camera. But this is being sold as something that everybody needs, these Google glasses. Here's where the information database becomes huge, and that's where we would start seeing enormous dangers. Do you use a smartphone? You didn't use it before, did you? Has your mobile phone made your life easier? But your mobile phone can be spied upon. What's the problem? If it offers a useful possibility, will you give this up because of the potential harm it could cause, or would you give up using that technology? Would you give it up, or would you prefer to use that harmful technology or potentially harmful technology? I agree with you. Instead of censoring technology, though, I think we should be aware of how we can make it harmless. Further experiences and opinions? As our colleague said, we all have smartphones. We don't have Google Glasses, but we probably will have them in a few years' time. Many people are walking around with their data on. Google can identify where you are. They can control where you are with the GPS, if your GPS is on, how many pictures are being uploaded on Instagram, videos on the internet. Lots of people are taking pictures in the street, and lots of people are controlling us. So I don't think there's going to be such a significant change with Google Glasses. You will be able to walk around filming people, but if I walk around the street with a smartphone like this, people don't come at me asking, what are you doing? Nobody's going to come and criticize us. I think that this can be accepted and assumed as yet one more element of progress. I would like to voice my opinion. I think that the ethical problem will be between the haves and the have-nots, the big gap between them. We live in a world with limited resources, and there will be a minority of people using these possibilities, while the rest will not even have access to them in ethical terms. Then, over time, it's been proved that once the new technologies appear, instead of using them to increase the productivity of the system and the performance, usually it is used to generate more consumption, so we can start creating endless virtual worlds, and I think that the ethical discussion should go along these lines. Of 3 ideas that we've heard, if you're interested, let me wrap them up. One was the possibility of gathering data. This could be negative data collected from anyone in our environment. Another item was that even so, this technology is practical because it offers the possibility of doing new things. Another element is that not everyone will have access to this technology, although it's sold as if it were a democratic thing. Not everyone will be able to pay 1,500 euros. Then we need to discuss whether this is going to be a differential value for those who don't have it.
I just want to make a remark. By having this type of technology on the streets, we will have to modify the laws, the legislation. That is key, and this happens with all technologies. Whenever they arise, they stir debates. I remember when HTML appeared, and everyone said that comes from the military, that is evil. And now we see that it is an advantage and not a disadvantage. But it's true that the legislation is lagging behind, and it's still legislating about these first original versions of HTML. I just want to say something regarding privacy and information. We don't have to be as Richard Steinman, but right now there is this debate going on about the NSA, a debate that is really modifying the way in which companies operate. Google, for example, currently really gives you information about the services of your mobile phone that will be used by the application that you are downloading, for example, access to the camera, etc. So we should take a further step, and they should tell us the specific purposes for which they will be using the information they gather from our mobile devices. So we should have this transparency in terms of the use. And I share the fears. I think that we have to make headway along these lines because this technology is unavoidable. Anyone can access your mobile device right now, not only to check the pictures that you've taken, but also to check audio information. So this is a very interesting debate. We still have to discuss a lot. There are many people out there fighting for these, like Richard Steinman or WikiLeaks, and many other people touching upon these issues. Anyone else willing to share his or her opinion with us? I roughly agree with what has been said regarding finding the way to control this technology through laws or legislation. I just want to qualify something. In terms of Google, we get a very clear and nice image from Google, but the reality won't be like this. We will always have ads on the images on Google glasses. I mean that it's not as wonderful as it seems, because there are huge commercial interests behind, of all types. Regarding ads, Google itself has to strike a balance between profit-making, of course, it's a company, and offering a service to the audience. So they look for strategies all the time to sell things to us, because the advertisers are paying to Google. But if the banner is too annoying, Google will have to do away with it, because the user won't be satisfied. And well, we can be naive and say, well, with this new game, the system will self-regulate. But we see on the press that people are still being annoyed by these privacy issues, and it needs to be regulated. And then, for example, when you go abroad, how many of you take pictures to locals in another country? And do you ask for permission before taking pictures of locals in a different country? In photography, street photographers, some of them say, no, I don't want to let the person know that I will be taking a picture of him or her, because it won't be as natural. And for example, Fujifilm 100S is a fantastic camera for street photography, and it doesn't make a noise when you click, when you take the picture, so the people won't notice. So we don't need this innovative technology to capture the privacy of people. And also on mobile phones, I don't know how many of you record your meetings systematically on the mobile phone. Anyone? Anyone willing to admit it publicly? I know about some people who do that. I do not record my meetings because I don't have enough space on my mobile device. But some people do this. They record all the meetings. I don't know exactly what for, but well, maybe re-listening to it later, or having all the specific details in an audio file. And not only we've got the glasses, there are new technologies being developed. We have spoken quite a lot, and this is widespread, that it's still very difficult to wear. For example, the glasses themselves. Google glasses can be trendy for some time, but probably in some time you will be wanting a different color, and they won't fit as well. So the most interesting option would be an invisible technology, lenses, contact lenses. Google not long ago developed some contact lenses with a non-evil purpose, and that is to know our sugar content, blood in blood for diabetics. And with these contact lenses, well, we could get a warning on our smartphone for us to have an intake of glucose or not. This sounds great, but I think they have a battery issue with these contact lenses. Of course, it's not very easy to have a battery included, mounted on the contact lens. This is being developed by Microsoft. So not only Google is concerned about these issues of interaction and behavior, this is the Microsoft development. They are talking about their prototypes and interests.
Perseguir una interfaz que realmente sea transparente.
For a truly transparent interface.
Eso según cómo aún nos puede dar más miedo, porque con las Google Glass aún...
Even, I don't know, I would be even scarier because nobody would notice anything. These would be absolutely transparent, invisible.
Bueno, nos centramos mucho en el sentido de la vista.
We focus very much on the sight, but we've got other senses, don't we? For example, this company launching and advertising a product that you will see in a minute.
Mientras jugamos, desprende un olor a...
While we play, you can smell popcorn, which is a very characteristic smell. Because smells are very... I mean, they remain for a long time in human memory. We can remember smells from our childhood. So, in this playful experience, if we add up this marked smell, sure, you will be desiring and wishing for popcorn much more. Regarding this issue, I don't know if you have heard about a kind of community called Body Hack. They call themselves body hackers. Some of them have an implant of a magnet between their two main fingers. These are tiny magnets, but whenever they interact with a magnetic field, they vibrate. So they add up a sixth sense to their body. For example, when they go through a metal detector or an alarm, they sense it, they really notice it. I don't know, this is interesting, and in little time I'm sure that we will see many other of these advancements. Imagine in a CT scan, yeah, many people have been implanting different elements. These people are very much, really believe that the human body has to become a cyborg. They start to get chips, underskin chips. Well, these are interesting experiences. I like this game because it really focuses on a different sense, smell in this case, even touch. Because at the end of the day, we want to generate emotions, and here's when, well, we could pose the question, will AR really satisfy our consumers, our users' needs, or are we really imposing AR because we've got the technology? That's the case of Google. Microsoft, well, the contact lens has been left aside. They do not want to keep developing it. It's just a matter of interface. If you explore ads, well, marketing campaigns, you really find experiences that work on emotion triggering. And some of them add AR. For example, if you live in a northern country, a cold country, and it's the middle of the winter, and all of a sudden you're surrounded by warm images of paradise beaches, they really trigger that emotion in your brain. Coca-Cola is a fan of emotions because that's what they sell, emotions. So it's absolutely pitch dark, and all of a sudden it lights up as if it were the sun. These are immediate emotions, but I'm sure that they are able to generate positive feelings through that last longer. Probably the people who went through this experience will really remember that, when they bought a Coke and all of a sudden it was summer. Another experience of AR applied to a city. This is an airline, and they placed gates in different cities, and people were invited to open these doors. Of course, a human being is curious by nature, and they would invite people to do that. what is the ultimate goal here? To generate feelings so that you feel like flying with them and visiting different places.
Está muy bien, la bicicleta.
Great, the one with the bike.
Otra de las líneas donde se trabaja mucho es cómo interactuar con...
Another working line is how to interact with the surrounding space. In the case of the Google glasses, they have focused on the tactile features. On one of the sides of the glasses, you can really modulate if you go back or forth. And this is another device able to capture the space and our location in space. It's quite similar to kinetic. Augmented reality, in my opinion, for the survival of a plant. This is a gadget that is sold for iPhone. I don't know if it's available for Android. It's about €180. And this will allow you to make your plants survive. I mean, you've got a database with all the plants, and it locates all the plants, it calculates all the features of the environment, and it lets you know if you are lacking humidity, if you've got too much sunlight, if it's not the right environment for the plant, if you need a greenhouse, etc. These are tools surrounding us, and another company working on emotions is Nike. Sports in this case. In this promotional video, we are shown how to interact in their retail shops. Beyond the trainers, they were the first one to connect your trainers with your iPhone and iPod to send data, create game structures, set barriers that we wanted to overcome in our races. This is another buzzword, the gamification, to take the game structure to non-playful environments like a company, advertising, training, health. If you are a chronic patient and you have to take specific pills, well, through a game structure, maybe we will get the patient to stick to the treatment. And this takes me to a different issue, and it seems that this will be present as of this Mobile World Congress. These are all the wearable elements, not only telephones that will be connected to our iPhone, also a pedometer, clothes, warm clothes that change depending on the temperature, or clothes, intelligent clothes that might know if we are sick, if we are well, or might be able to recommend a specific diet. These are wearable elements, not only caring about the technology, but also fashion. All of them are very aesthetic. They have really worked on the appearance of these elements for people to wear them in a fashionable way. Apple, for example, has hired somebody from Hermes, and apparently that's the path they are taking. And then we've got Samsung's telephones. What do you call it? The iWatch. The iWatch will be launched this year, apparently. Have you got any of these? Anyone? Would you like to have one? Yes, you would? Please tell us about your experience.
It would be a helpful addition to our mobile system, since everyone is so dependent on the battery and power sources of our phones, so you can actually use your phone without actually using the screen, which uses most of the power. So this would be very helpful to use just a watch.
Vale. Como un complemento que nos ayuda a no tener que sacar el móvil.
As a complement, because we don't have to take the mobile out to interact, it has ease of use. But for example, since I have telephone, I don't wear any watch anymore because I've got my mobile phone. Because it's annoying, I don't know, it doesn't feel good on my skin, so I don't have a watch, I don't wear it anymore. So when I got a mobile phone, I stopped carrying around the camera, the watch, etc. And now these components, these complements are being included in our life again. I understand that it is useful for you because you will be able to access it in an easier manner, and if, well, you don't run many risks, but in a way, to me, it's like going back, because I will have to pay attention to more devices, I will be carrying around more things. And these additional elements, this is the last experience I will show you. I really liked it, the way they present it, and I see it, it has a lot of potential. But the developers are the same developers of Guitar Hero, the PlayStation game. And they base this new product on some elements. I mean, how many of you have a treadmill or a gymnastics equipment at home? Nobody? We're not very sporty, aren't we? Well, these sports equipment, when you have them at home, you don't really use them usually. And this is the starting point of these developers. They turn this still boring equipment, because running alone at home is not very funny, and they try to turn it into a funny product or equipment. This is a pedometer, which counts your steps, and it turns real life information into virtual life or augmented reality information. And well, for example, here, depending on your pace, when you run or when you cycle, the ball runs faster or slower. Would you buy that? I think you're not very sporty. That's not your thing, isn't it? Okay, to wrap up, I would like to open up the debate and think about the possibilities you can think of, which are the working lines we can pursue. I think that there's still a debate out there. It's true that we still lack technology for this to be a reality for the citizen, or do we lack content? What are we lacking currently? We come from the University of Barcelona, and regarding education and training, there are interesting possibilities on the net, that is true. But I still don't see if this will be useful or not. This is similar to the eye skull, but apart from a skull, there are For example, apps for children learning about the planets. They can see images of rotating planets. It's quite spectacular. But in the field of education, I think that this has to evolve much more, and we have to go beyond a textbook on screen. I don't know if you know about anything regarding education. In the field of education, the most powerful ideas, I have found them in terms of game structure, not so much in terms of AR technology. For example, we, a couple of years ago, developed a game in which we thought about including AR. The game was based on a character called Miguel Crustafón, who is a paleontologist. And well, we wanted to show children what paleontology is about. And there were two spaces in the game, a real space and an imaginary one. In the real one, we would offer data and facts about the life of that character and activities that are taking place in the real world. And in the imaginary space, the child would gather different bones and imagine how the bones would make up the historical character. So he could play around with the bones and see how it interacted with the environment. It was back then the Invisimals peak, really. And, well, the child, could really make the bones evolve and play around with them. It seems quite interesting, right? It's a good solution. Can you think of a better solution? Sorry, no microphone is being used. No, I'm talking about my game here, about this paleontology game. For that specific game, our solution was to have it in 3D. Instead of printing out a page with a code that had to be placed in front of a camera, we decided to go for the 3D. The child could really play around with it. It was a plastic reality. It could touch it. So this was much more productive for schools, for example. And in schools, they could print it out in black and white. And then children would be able to draw their own character. So that was much more interesting than the AR option. That's why we decided to go for this 3D printing. It's true that there is a lot of material and many different ideas for children and teenagers regarding games, etc. But what we are lacking, maybe, is in terms of university education, in terms of masters and postgraduate degrees. Instead of sitting a regular exam, maybe we could have an activity based on very powerful graphics. In Portugal, I will tell you that in a conference they were talking about courses using AR and not using AR. And in their study, they have improved the results by 40%. And, and in using AR, it was 55%, the improvement. So the margin, the difference was not very strong. But what happens after some years when everybody knows about AR? Because when you give a child an AR app, it's a novelty and it really hooks him. But whenever it's not a novelty anymore, well, it doesn't really catch his attention. I don't think the novelty is key here, but rather the system that is being used. If you use powerful graphics, for example, the child is much more impacted than just by reading a text. For example, I've been able to see an activity, an educational activity, somebody who had plotted an English questionnaire with AR, and you had to choose the right word in a questionnaire, but everything was graphic. You would choose it with your hand. Yeah, in this Portuguese case, you would see a chicken, and then you would see chicken written out. Now, I was thinking about more serious educational proposals. To me, games are a serious matter. To me, the key is really the structures behind the app. If you talk about image quality, for example, today I can get a better quality with an HD TV or an HD printing than with AR, because there are still many technical hitches. I want to tell you about a case, an educational proposal with AR, an activity on a concentration camp, a Nazi concentration camp that was burned down. And if you go to the place, to the real one, it's now a park. But with the AR, you can look at the buildings and get to know the history of the concentration camp. So in this case, that's a little bit more useful, because it's really telling you about the history of the place. In Pompeii, there are many research studies that have been done which have reconstructed the city, and you can really get to know how life was in the city back then. Apart from these examples, I think that a research line could be regarding special needs children, autistic children, for example, who have great difficulties when it comes to communicating with a normal person, but they easily share through technology. And maybe all human beings have this component. Maybe we can acquire knowledge by interacting with technology. So not only these applications for special needs people, but also anybody. Anyone else? One of the things that comes up quite a lot is showing a reality, increasing the number of data, or augmenting reality. But it's really interesting to focusing on extracting data from reality, because you mentioned before that maybe you had an application, you go through the streets, and with your camera you are shown the places that are surrounding you. Well, maybe you don't need the camera to do that. Just by clicking twice you can get this information. But if you go to the Sagrada Familia, let's say, you can get more information on the Sagrada Familia. But if you target a specific detail of the building, the camera would be able to register the detail and tell you about the inspiration of the architect, in this case Gaudi, where did he get the inspiration from. So extracting complex detail and data from reality and then showing them to you as useful data, this is much more interesting to me than rather accessing information, because reality is complex in itself. So we could use AR to better and further analyze reality and break it down. Yeah, zooming in a specific element of reality. I think that this is very interesting, precisely because if we think about how to use AR in training or education, well, we have to go back to what the last colleague said. We're talking about augmented reality. It's not about a device allowing you to access information. The starting point, the main idea, is to increase the reality. For example, in terms of anatomy, you can look at the human body, but in a classroom there are not so many things to be augmented. So we really have to see if this is worthwhile, if by using a specific system or device you can, for example, steer the interest of a student. And a different story is this basic idea of increasing our surrounding reality to access information which is invisible. I don't know, that's my remark.
I fully agree, and I would like to make a further remark about that. When you're working with a video game and one level is really difficult to beat, either you lower the level That's one of the strategies until you overcome that problem. What you said about providing further information, not everyone wants that extra information. There will be different layers, different levels, and augmented reality should fit our needs. When we take up the mobile phone with most applications on, for instance, bars in the city, you are in the city center of Barcelona, you go around and you have this cloud of labels around you that you can reduce if you, for instance, filter things closer, farther, and so on. But you can also play with the filters and make them more useful, either with participation from the social media, from the networks, or from our friends only, our friends' opinions, and so on. And in the case of La Sagrada Familia, it's not the same to have an architect with to be an architect who wants a certain level of information, or someone who's a tourist and visits La Sagrada Familia for the first time. So we can either overwhelm the person with information or not provide enough information. So if you have not done this, please download the iSkull and look at the area. We've all at that page. So we've all studied the bones in your school. And tell me whether you find it useful or not. I think that the level of detail of the bones is too high. It was easier for me to just have a rough look at the bones and learn the names. If the objective was just passing an exam where you need to know the names of the bones, that would be too much. However, if you want to touch them, to understand the deep structures of the bones and so on, then yes, that's enough. But if it's only learning the names of the bones, you will do better by looking at the picture, at the paper. Now that you mentioned this concept of being cumbersome, how can we improve a game with the proposals that you have and so on and so forth? This is technology. So this is the NSA spying on you. How can we improve? What we've seen is that whenever I have a proposal, I take it to one of my kids, and she takes it to class, and then they use the game for exactly the opposite of what it was designed for, or they use it in a way that is counterintuitive as compared to what I would use, of the way I would use it. So I tend to quantify the way they've used it, because we will never know, from my point of view, we will never know where these technologies are going to go to. But if my daughter comes in and says, everybody used it, even Noah, who doesn't like playing, used it, then that means that it works really well. But if we said we used with it as if it was an airplane, well, that means it's an airplane, that's all. Yeah, we do the same. We do focus group studies and ethnological studies and so on, and we end up there. So this solution was better than augmented reality because the reaction of kids was much better. In this case, in this specific case, I wanted to share a project where we are taking part in the company I work with. It's called Infantium. It's a system where you can interact with kindergarten children with tablets, and you give them activities, augmented reality type, and the tablet is recording how each child is learning, and then this interacts with the teacher in order to understand how each child in the classroom is doing his or her own learning process, and in that way to focus further on what the teacher should insist upon for that child to reach the same average level of the class. Further comments? Other experiences, things that you would like to share with us? Okay. If not, thank you very much to all of you. I will leave my presentation with you so that if you could not take note of some of the routes, you will have it available. This has been my own selection, my own personal point of view. Of course, it doesn't cover all examples. If you want to emphasize education, we will go and find many more things. If you prefer to focus on museums, there are many examples, especially in France. I wish you enjoy these days, and I hope that you'll be able to develop an app that, and I hope that next time I come, I will say, yes, this one is providing contents and solutions where augmented reality does have a meaning. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. You're welcome. Welcome to Barcelona.